Hello, hello, hello.
Hello. I haven't seen you for a while.
I've always been here in spirit. I've always been the hand on your shoulder, the hat on your head,
The wind beneath my wings.
the breeze between your knees.
Oh, that went weird quite quickly. I wasn't expecting that.
How have you been?
I've been good. See, I'm quite surprised to hear from you again because Tarman said you were dead in one of the...
Well, no, I heard that as well. I've been dead twice, apparently, I think. It's not good, Matt. You zone out, you bleed your life's blood one last time, and then you see where you're going, and then you come back.
Yeah, you can see clearly now.
I can see clearly now that the waves have gone. I've changed my ways to avoid my fate. So, no more talking about Jimmy Savile. No more, we can't go too crazy. Yeah, I've become pious.
What, you're like a monk or something like that? Yeah.
A warrior monk, but yeah.
A warrior monk. That's quite something, a warrior monk, isn't it?
Yeah, like having one of those old Japanese naginatas with covering up my face, prayer beads, but I can kick ass. So I live on top of a mountain, People visit me and leave me food every now and then. Except on days like this where I do a podcast. So, hey.
Yeah, there's not enough monks doing podcasts, really, if you think about it.
There are not, and they don't give enough sage advice, even if they did. They're too consumed with themselves. Terrible.
Yeah. I like the idea of a warrior monk because you're peaceful, but clearly not peaceful enough. You know when you need to fight.
Oh, yeah, man. You're like Kevin Costner of religion. It's I guess Kevin Costner is the Kevin Costner of religion. Yeah, you fight when you need to. You don't go looking for battles. Not exactly a horror film, but it's good action.
Was that a segue then?
A little bit.
I'm getting better at noticing these. To be fair, she's going to be annoyed with me for saying this, but Tarman's ones are really terrible.
Yeah. Her art of the segue is a little bit unsubtle.
Yeah. Yeah, she'd learn from us, really. We do the best ones, I think.
I tell you what, that's really good about Trump and all, but it's not a long shot, but a one shot. No, that shit, that was a segue.
Well, at least you tried, Chris. That's the point. Yeah. We reward trying here.
Well, I think my first attempt was way better.
Yeah, definitely.
Segues like that, I love them, though. That was good. 90s nostalgia. Speaking of 90s nostalgia, have you seen what Trump has done in the news lately?
Oh, God. What particular Trump news story are you talking about?
Oh, that was just an example of a segue.
Oh, right.
But that's always relevant news as well. I'm sure Trump he's kind of wondering about this wall thing now. It's like he's kind of trying to back out of doing the wall because even his fan base is kind of talking back on him. They feel a bit betrayed. So he doesn't really have too many allies at the moment. And even Ann Coulter, the conservative.
Oh, yeah.
Even she's like one of the biggest Trump fans. And she said something like, at this point, who wouldn't want him indicted,
Yeah.
And it's like, whoa, okay, Trump is kind of fucked here.
Is he now doing like some kind of immigration deal with the Democrats?
Yeah,
it's kind of strange.
And then there was that leaked footage on the phone, probably old by now, of him talking to the Mexican president saying, look, I need this wall done. It's not the most important thing politically, but on face, I need it done. Otherwise, I'm going to look like a jackass. And the Mexican guy's like, he's still saying like, no, we can't do this. I'm sorry, but it's not what we want. And he's just like, we'll make a deal somewhere and it'll be fine. We'll make a deal somewhere. And he's kind of worried he's not going to be able to do it. And that it's going to make him look like a fool, ironically.
I like how he's now only just like worried about looking like a jackass.
Well, we all go through puberty at some stage, don't we?
Yeah, unfortunate that he's doing it as president, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. But there you go. It's a showman job now. So,
yeah.
I mean, The Rock has said that he might apply. Kanye West has even shared some interest in applying. So it's not a job for politicians anymore. It's just people with no actual experience and celebrities with personality. It's all cult personality. That's all it is.
Yeah, with The Rock, isn't Tom Hanks his vice president?
Oh, actually, I really hope that's true. I wouldn't mind that. But at the same time, I stand by the whole fact that actors shouldn't be presidents.
No. If George Clooney had his way, he'd probably be president. Because that's what I heard. He was gearing up for a presidential attempt at some point.
Yeah, but see, George Clooney, he'd be my one exception because he at least has some sort of investment in political affairs and things. Like his wife's that human rights ambassador. So at least he has a little bit more experience than some.
Yeah.
And he's also on the right side of the whole fence as well. So I wouldn't see that as much of a problem. I still think that he would need to have some experience as opposed to what he does now.
Yeah, I think actors should, in general, stay away from politics. In general,
Well,
I think.
they get high on their own success, and you get a couple of fans say, "You should be president. You should be president," and then they'll think, "I should be president," because the fans love me.
Yeah, they think that's going to translate into them getting elected, I think.
But it probably would as well. That's the sad thing. People love a personality, and if we find out that The Rock clips his toenails a little bit better than, say, George Clooney, he might get in. It's all superficial stuff,
Yeah. What is the better way to clip your toenails?
Well, you need a toenail clipper, and you need to take your time.
Is that George Clooney's mistake? He doesn't have a toenail clipper?
No, he has one, but his biggest mistake is thinking he can just do it anywhere. You have to do it over the bar. Setting is as important as the action itself.
Yeah.
And he thinks doing it in his bed when nobody's watching is fine, as long as he finds the nail afterwards. No, you have to do it over the bar.
I think you're right on that one.
Always an educational experience on the podcast here, so
yeah.
We always learn something.
We're always very good at schooling people.
I think that's a Trump thing, really. Schooling people or just mouthing off about random bullshit and thinking people listen.
Yeah, actually, probably the second one there.
Probably the second one. But yeah, so someone died recently.
Yeah, well, quite a lot of people have died, I think, recently, have they?
Yeah, quite a lot of people. But the subject of today...
There's one person in particular, isn't there, that we're going to talk about, and that's Tobe Hooper, who directed the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He died recently, and we just wanted to briefly mention him because, well, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a great film, although it's been a little while since I watched it. I quite enjoyed it. I thought it was quite a scary film. So.
It was definitely one of the first video nasties I ever saw. Actually, I did see the remake before I saw the original.
Really?
I did, yeah. I thought the remake was actually quite good as well. But after that one, they made a whole slew of horrible, horrible sequels.
But horror sequels very rarely are that good.
There's not very good, and then there's just insulting.
Yeah.
There are some that it's meant to be like a direct sequel to the original as opposed to the remake. They just ruin the character of Leatherface completely. Like, I don't know what to believe. But at the same time, the original was classic, and we can all imagine trying to make a film like that. And it would be so easy and cheap, and yet it was so effective.
Yeah, it is the kind of film when you first I wanted to be like a filmmaker when I was at university, obviously. And that's exactly the kind of film you want to make back then, I think, in general.
A nice, cheap, sort of grindhousey picture.
Yeah, and because I got another one of his films that he did. It's quite a few years later, and it's the Toolbox Murders.
I've heard of that.
But it's actually a remake of a film that had been done like in the late 70s, I think. It's a bit more modern, better like production values as well. But it's not too bad. It's quite a good one, quite a grim one as well. Most of those like horror films are pretty grim, to be fair.
Nice. At the same time, like the Toolbox Murders, did you find them as shocking, or was it another one of the sort of gore-fest films?
It is a little bit gore-festy at times. It's still got a bit like where it is like there's a genuine kind of horror to it in a way.
Yeah.
Like it's not like the best horror film you're ever going to see, but it's pretty intense while you're watching it. It's not necessarily a film you remember very well.
I see. But it's a nice little hidden gem.
It's like a good one. It's one of the better ones, I think, of horror films you tend to see these days.
I see.
There's not been a really kind of good horror film, really, I don't think, recently.
Horror films were already suffering in the 90s anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, you get a couple of good ones like The Bone Collector, and then you had that slew of Saw and Hostel films, which was gore porn, really. I mean, they couldn't even do real horror. It was just guts. And guts is the cheap way of showing off horror, really is. But it's still fun. But with horror already decreasing, and then you had that superhero boom for a while. Big action films. And then all of a sudden there's no room for big major studios to actually do horror when everyone else is taking up the limelight. I think the last proper horror actually was It that came out recently.
Oh yeah, I've heard that's quite good from what people
I've heard it's quite good. I hope that, we get a really good horror film like It, but one that actually reinvents the genre, rejuvenates the genre, unlike what the Mummy film was trying to do. That remake of the Mummy film, which wasn't exactly horror anyway, but it was like that action horror. It was trying to make its own universe like Marvel. Failed spectacularly. Yeah. I don't know if they're going to continue that. But we need something that's just going to stick, and then people's demand for being scared goes up. But it needs to be done correctly, and also rewatchable. Because problem with some horror films, like for example, I love the film Martyrs, but rewatchability, it's not. It's still good to rewatch, but at the same time, it's when painful parts are coming up, and you're not as shocked, but you're still dreading it, and you end up watching it for the acting more than anything. But it's still, we need more horror films that make like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I can watch again and again.
Yeah,
just keep enjoying it. It's just one of those fun films. Oh, fun and gory. And modern horrors like The Babadook, for instance, I thought it was good. I can't watch it a second time because I know about all the twists and the secrets and and it's just I can't. I could try, but
see, I've got a similar thing because, like, for me, it's I don't like not knowing what's going to happen often the time. When you watch it again, you kind of know what happens. That for me, that kind of takes a lot of the horror away from a lot of horror films. For me to like watch a horror film again, it's got to be something that it's kind of really watchable. You've got to watch it just for the sake of wanting to watch it, not for like the sake of wanting to know what happens to these characters.
Like it adds more than just the horror element, or at least the horror element has a rewatchability to it, not just once you find out what happens or what's actually in the box or something.
Yeah,
then it's no point,
Yeah,
like The Sixth Sense, for example.
Yeah,
like, you've watched The Sixth Sense.
Yeah.
So obviously you know about the twist and the fact that you can rewatch it to see all the clues in the film and things, but it is hard to watch a film when you know the twist.
Yeah. See, there is one horror film I would watch again. It's a horror film called Pieces, I think.
Pieces.
It's more funny than anything else. It doesn't like intend to be, I don't think.
Oh, right.
It's set in this like high school, and it's this kid's going around with a chainsaw, I think.
Brilliant.
It's either the kid or one of the teachers, and it's so funny, like watching this kid just kind of cut off people's heads. It's just done in such a like over the top way. It's more funny.
Pieces, you say?
Yeah, I think it's called Pieces. It is a bit gory, but it's kind of funny, so you kind of like watching it just for that, really. To be honest.
Actually, that sounds a lot like Evil Dead 2. It's like that same sort of over the top, but it is horrifying as well. Even on my first watch of it, I was horrified, but at the same time, I was laughing my arse off. It was hilarious. And I think there's something really effective about those two emotions of horror and humour. And they go hand in hand so well. But when you get it just right, like the director, at first you think it's just so bad that it's laughable. And then you realise halfway through, the director knows it's bad and he's just having fun with it. So it's like you're laughing with him as opposed to at him.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah. I do like that kind of dark humour sometimes.
Yeah. In
those kind of films. What I really want, like, the horror film is, like, something original as well, because there's so many of these sequels. Like, I've got, like, the Omen box set and, like, the Exorcist box set. There's, like, 5 or 6 different films in these kind of box sets. You just think, couldn't you think of anything original to do? Like, and it's not just, like, sequels. Then they do, like, the remakes. There's a remake of virtually every horror film from, like, the 70s, I think.
That goes for many genres as well. They're trying to go with what worked in the past and repeat that success, because you've already got a base of success if you do that.
Yeah.
That's actually one of the things that I think Texas Chainsaw does so well. It's a straight-up horror, gore, but you can still rewatch it. Actually, do you want to hear a controversial opinion about the Exorcist series? I thought 1 was great, of course. Number 2 is one of the worst horror films, if not one of the worst films ever made.
Yeah.
But number 3 is better than the original.
I would go with that, I think, actually.
Yeah.
I watched the first one and I listened to Mark Commode, who said it was like one of the best films, scariest films, like...
What, number 1?
Ever, yeah. But I watched it, I thought, I didn't really think too much of it, actually. I didn't think it was particularly scary. I thought her being exercised was more funny than anything.
Or plus you've got all these people spoofing it as well nowadays. But what have you ever seen number 3?
Yeah, ages ago. I can't really remember too much about it now.
It has some of the most shocking imagery and use of sound I've ever seen in a horror film. So I'm not going to spoil any scenes, but some just take you by surprise, some unnerve you. And it also has, what's his bloody face? The guy that played Grimmer Wormtongue in Lord of the Rings. Do you remember him? Well, anyway, he plays the Gemini killer. And his performance is just amazing, man. It's incredible. Brad Dourif is his name. But he's always been that guy that plays that character. And he's just amazing in that. Oh, it's awesome. If you get a chance to watch it, it's so good. You've got the box set.
Yeah, I've got the box set. So I'll give that a watch.
Hellraiser's another one, although that was weird. Hellraiser's just a fucking weird. It's great gore and it's really horror, but a lot of the time there's some really you're very aware that the set was cheap, and some of the other characters are just you don't care about. You just want to get back to the Cenobites and things like that.
Yeah, because I've got a lot of like the Italian horror films, like the Giallos and stuff like that.
And Suspiria.
Yeah, and there's a great one I've got. I can't remember what exactly it's called now, but it's one where this guy gets the person who's murdering this guy is using a digger.
Oh.
And what he does is he gets like the handle bits of that digger and just rips this guy's head off, basically.
Shit. Actually sounds quite awesome.
Yeah. And then there's a bit where the guy is then running over someone's head. But you can tell it's quite a cheaply made film because the head, it just kind of squishes like it was a ball or something like that.
And is he still screaming by that point as well?
Yeah. It's amazing to watch that one. But yeah, some of those Italian ones are really good, really good, but kind of creepy as well.
What's that one called again?
Oh, I can't remember what it's called now.
Please send me, yeah.
Yeah, I've got it upstairs on DVD, so...
Perfect.
God, there's some weird ones, though. There's like, there's one called, like, The Night Train Murders, and it's a bit of a kind of rip-off of, like, Last House on the Left.
Yeah.
And, yeah, there's a bit where this guy sticks a knife into, like, some woman's vagina.
Oh, lovely.
It's a really, really uncomfortable to watch. God.
That reminds me of Seven a bit, actually.
Yeah.
Actually, Last House on the Left, another one that got a remake with Jennifer Lawrence, I believe.
Yeah, I heard that wasn't too bad, actually, the remake.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, it might be better than the original, because the original was very, it was still a cult classic, and I understand why, and it has got this kind of video nasty sort of vibe, especially in a time when the slasher genre wasn't really big, but there are whole scenes where the camera will be rolling for 20 seconds as the victim runs, and then about 10 seconds later, the pursuers run after her, but it's the same damn scene, and this happens way too many times.
Yeah.
And I think the film's great, but it's very amateur. You can tell it's someone's first time. Not to shit on anyone. I believe that's one of the first cases of a sequel being better than the original, or improving on the original.
Yeah.
Especially when you got Jennifer Lawrence.
Yeah. What's another one from that era? The Hills Have Eyes as well.
Ah, yes. That got a remake.
Yeah. Like, everything's got a remake, hasn't it, from that era?
Nice. Even, I think they were going to do Children of the Corn at one point, but I don't know if they have actually done that.
Yeah, because they even did, they got another guy who died recently, Romero, is it?
Yes.
Yeah. They remade one of his films, didn't they?
One of the best remakes ever was Dawn of the Dead. Yes, that was... I still think that's also better than the original. I love the original again. It's one of the first zombie films I ever saw. But the remake had me on the edge of my seat all the way through. It was up there with 28 Days Later in terms of zombie horror. Oh,
because I think Romero's, didn't he do The Crazies as well?
I think, yeah.
That's been remade as well.
That was interesting. I thought it was all right too.
I did see one remake that wasn't as good as the original, which was The Ring.
Ah, what, the American remake?
The original Japanese one's about the eyes. Is it the eye or something like that?
Yeah, they watch a videotape and then they die in 7 days. Ringu.
No, I think it's The Eye that I watched.
The Eye.
And there's like original Japanese version of that.
I don't remember what that one is. I know The Grudge and Ring, and then there's One Missed Phone Call. That's another thing, remakes of foreign films, especially Japanese horror.
Yeah. They're never as good, I don't think.
Grudge used to be like the serious, scariest thing I'd ever seen. And I watch it nowadays, and it's, I've seen so many things imitate it now, it doesn't have any effect. It's still good scare. It's just not the same anymore.
The Japanese don't half do some like weird horror films, though.
Oh, they love it. They love their weirdness.
There's like I remember talking about this to Harmons because it's probably possible like podcast idea. It's about this guy who, this woman like chopped his cock off and balls, I think. And then they just kind of sat there talking afterwards. And then she kind of stayed in the same room with his dead body for like days.
That's a real story?
Yeah, that's real. It actually happened. It's an actual story. And then like it's been made into like a film a couple of times in Japan.
And so it was a Japanese story. Oh my God.
Yeah, there's another one. There's a famous Japanese author where he cut his own head off in some kind of ritual. And you just think, wow.
Wow. I hope he didn't. I thought you were going to say something like, and then he went and visited his ex or something. Like he was alive for a good 30 minutes afterwards.
Yeah. Because
Nice.
chickens are meant to live for a little while, aren't they?
Yeah, I don't really want to test it, but that might just be spasms and things. But I don't know. Like, I'm not sure if someone's actually done that. Looked at the body running around, but then looked at the head to see if it's still winking at him or something like that.
Yeah.
No, it's just like, get it, wink, wink, get it, wink, and then die.
But yeah, so the Japanese got some weird shit going on. Because there's a film like Visit Q, which I've got, and it's basically this guy, he gets stuck in a dead prostitute.
What?
Which is, it's kind of, I mean, it's the same guy, there's a guy who did, is it 13th film about Japanese warriors or something like that? He's famous for doing these quite, like, weird films.
It's not Takeshi Miike, is it?
Yeah, it's him. Can't remember he did a film about a load of warriors and stuff like that. I can't remember what it's called now, though. But yeah, I mean, this is like a really good film, like this Visit to Q. It's really weird and strange, but it's a really good film.
Well, I love that guy anyway, so I'll definitely try and watch that.
Yeah.
He did another couple of films, Happiness of the Katakuri, which is the weirdest, guarantee one of the weirdest films you'll ever see. Not in terms of avant-garde, so you can still actually watch it and enjoy it, but there's a musical every 10 minutes. And it's a weird mix of musical, horror and murder and stop motion in certain places as well. It's just weird.
Yeah.
But it's great. He also did Itchy the Killer, which is...
I've heard of that one,
Yeah, Jet Li as well. So that was really interesting to watch.
Wow.
I think it was Jet Li. Maybe I'm wrong. I think it was Jet Li. But yeah, it's just such good fun to watch his stuff. I don't think he's made a film that I haven't found entertaining or that slows down.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like films like this that you can rewatch all the time. Jacob's Ladder is another one, pure horror that I can just rewatch without having to worry about getting bored about it. And then Texas Chainsaw Massacre just has an atmosphere to it. There's certain camera shots of, you're looking in through the front doorway where you have that stair going up and that hallway with that hidden door.
Mm.
And that hidden door picture is so unnerving. I think it's all positioning of the camera being on the ground, looking up, how unnerving and scary. And it's the door of death and things. And oh my God, it's scary.
A film that I find really unnerving, it's probably not technically kind of seen as like a horror film, I guess, is A Clockwork Orange. I remember watching that for the first time. I was like, this is some weird kind of film.
Yeah, and you can't believe that it came out when it did as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, it got banned, but wow, it's still quite shocking to watch even today.
Yeah, first time I watched that, I did not like it at all. I mean, I really like it now. I don't really enjoy it because of like the violence, but it's a really good film. But I really did not like it the first time I saw it.
Oh, I loved it.
It's completely. I found it really unnerving. I was like, "What is this shit? He deserves to be put in prison for this."
And then there's that whole ambiguity of, is he really cured, or when he says, "Oh, I was cured, all right," is he just lying?
Yeah.
He hasn't really got a social barometer on him unless he's got, unless he's physically told by the pain not to do this.
Yeah, I think what's unnerving as well is that you're kind of tempted to feel sorry for this guy who's kind of spent the film beating people up and raping them.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you almost sympathise with the rapist.
Yeah.
And then he has the Ludovico treatment, and then the film becomes something bigger than him, where it's like the government and the prison system trying to control inmates through this sort of MK Ultra style of brainwashing. But you always have to remember that no matter if he's the victim here, and even that guy, that his wife was killed by them through the shock, and he goes mad and starts torturing Alex, you have to remember that he's kind of in the right anyway.
Yeah.
You probably do the same.
Yeah. It's such a weird film. And I think those penis lollies were pretty terrifying as well.
Oh, right. And they kept kind of dripping. You're like, that thing is going to fall off, mate.
I mean, that's what they say about Kubrick, though. They always think of him quite a dry, kind of, like, humorless character, but there's quite a bit of humour in some of his films, actually.
Kubrick?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. He's like the Coen brothers before Coen.
Yeah.
There are some really dry humour parts. I mean, Clockwork Orange is chock full of humorous anecdotes. So if you get past the dark humour, and you actually, because you're siding with Alex in a little bit of it, he's actually quite a witty, funny character. and his interactions with others is quite hilarious. And then there's the absurdity of some of the characters, like the principal guy that comes to his house, yes, to check on him. Then you've got like The Shining actually has some horror and comedy moments as well.
Yeah, there's a weird bit where there's that guy dressed up in the animal costume.
Yeah, apparently in the book that's a lot. I haven't read The Shining. I'll let you know that now.
I haven't either. I've heard it's meant to be something to do with him giving head to the guy.
Yeah.
It's got some weird meaning apparently.
And it's like a little Easter egg wink to the people that have read the book. But
yeah,
Stephen King didn't find that interpretation of The Shining very flattering, so he tried to make his own, which was like a couple of and apparently it explains more, but it's so different and it's not very good.
Yeah,
and it's really weird when the original creator of the idea doesn't have a very good idea of what someone else has a better idea of his idea. So you don't know really what to think.
Yeah, that's it's a pet hate of mine. It's like authors who they're willing to get the money for these things to be made into films, and then they moan about them incessantly. Like, you took the money, shut up. That's when it stops being yours. So
I will say that creators still have their control, and they can take money, but they can still be unhappy with a finished product as well, because you are taking someone else's idea and making it. For the longest time, I would always say, "Oh yeah, Stephen King's The Shining." But I never thought Stephen King. I always thought Kubrick.
Yeah.
That was just, I felt like that's his work. Come on, that's his work.
It's definitely like Kubrick's film. Because the book's meant to be a lot more about alcoholism, isn't it, I think?
Oh, yeah.
From what I've heard. And I think, Kubrick's film's definitely not about alcoholism, I don't think. I really like The Shining, actually.
I do, yeah.
That's one of those horror films I can watch again and again.
I think Shining is good. Tommy Knockers is horrible. He's made a lot of stupid things as well as good things.
Yeah.
Even It, which everyone loves nowadays, I thought it has a great start, an interesting middle that's building up to a climax, and a terrible climax, a horrible ending, which apparently they've addressed in the new film that I haven't seen. But, I used to watch the old film, and the ending was so questionable. It just didn't meld with the rest of the film. Because obviously Stephen King being Stephen King, he has to take it in a completely different direction. It's surprising us, but not necessarily entertaining us,
Yeah. The weirdest clown, I think, is the one in The Simpsons.
Krusty.
Yeah. He always scared the shit out of me.
Oh, yeah. I slaughtered the Special Olympics. Actually, funnily enough, and this is quite un-PC, back to old Chris standards, but in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the guy who played Leatherface, Gunnar Hansen, apparently his inspiration for mannerisms of Leatherface was special needs children in development, or
really?
Special Olympics. He actually said that.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know, man. That's kind of not cool.
It's not a good thing to admit to.
At the same time, though, and I'm sorry to say this, I can see what he was going for. Before you think I'm an evil bastard. It's just, that sort of, Leatherface is a mentally disabled sort of horror villain. You can tell he has some sort of handicap.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not like Freddy, who's all there in the head,
Yeah. I think I can see what you mean there, yeah.
But apparently he openly said, he saw inspiration from special need children. And obviously Leatherface acts like a child as well. He bangs his head.
Yeah.
When he's angry with himself or something. But, damn.
Yeah.
He just outright says it,
It's a very good performance, I guess, kind of.
Yeah, definitely.
But I wouldn't have necessarily admitted to that.
You would have said something like, mentally handicapped or something like that, but to outright say, special needs children is how I got my inspiration.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Hanson. I didn't know you hate them that much,
Yeah.
But still a great guy. Come on, this isn't exactly Mel Gibson level of controversy. But...
Yeah, true. And horror films, they're not exactly the morally based.
Exactly. They're not, it's all tits and dicks and guts and what's,
Yeah.
Your gutsy what's. And it's not the highest common denominator. In fact, a lot of people claim that it's down there with comedy, and how cheap and exploitative it is. And I'm cool with that, man. I love a good cheap horror.
Yeah.
When it's done well.
Like the best ones, I think they do capture something that you tend to find quite scary anyway. So I think they do get into your psyche a bit. So horror films can be
really
kind
do.
of good, but I think the best ones, I think, the cheap ones.
The cheap ones. And plus, the cheap ones have the best soundtracks as well.
Oh, yeah.
You listen to Suspiria, and that film you got me, Zombie Flesh Eaters.
Oh, yeah.
Which I love, by the way. Thank you for that. The soundtracks, they have that real 70s sort of synth.
Yeah.
And it's so wonderful to listen to. It's amazing. When I'm doing a bit of drawing or something like that, I listen to some of that in the background because it's got that great sort of vibe to it. You know, it's almost exciting, but it's not depressing horror. It's intense, exciting horror.
Yeah. I love some of the soundtracks. Like, there's one called New York Ripper.
New York Ripper.
Yeah, it's got like a really jazzy soundtrack.
Oh, yes.
And it's brilliant. In the 80s, there was a film, Necromantic.
Yes, I've heard of Necromantic. I think I know the song you're talking about as well.
And it's like a piano piece. It's like, it starts, and you think it's like some kind of classical music or something like that. And it's really like, you don't really see like horror film when you listen to it. But it's great. It's a really great piece of like music. I love that.
I fucking love Necromantic.
Yeah.
There was a slew of 80s and 90s films that tried to do the whole Lovecraftian theme, didn't they? They tried to go for a couple of There was Mountain of Madness. I really don't want to watch these films because I'm enjoying the books. But like the Lovecraftian theme is a genre all in itself in a way, isn't it? I mean, so it doesn't necessarily have to be from the lore books anyway. Lovecraft is a great sort of aura, but I think it's something that is way better in book form because when you see it in film, you can't really run away with it, and it's not as isolating. And
in general, I do find a lot of ghost stories often sound better in book form as well.
Yes,
words can be really evocative sometimes.
The medium does help as well because you're isolated when you're reading a book, so you're alone, regardless of where you are or who you're with.
It's totally your imagination as well.
You're not reading to an audience.
Yeah. Films, by and large, they can only really be visually kind of, I think. You can do a little bit like music and sound, I suppose.
A little bit, but not enough.
That's my problem with like a lot of modern horror films, is they depend too much on that.
Yes, exactly. That's where I think the line is cast. When you have psychological horror, like Lovecraftian fiction, it is better in book form. But when you get goremography or just really good action horror, it's way better in film. You can't even imagine a novelization of Dream Warriors, Nightmare 3. You know, it has to be a film. It's a film only sort of medium. I doubt there was ever a book of Dream Warriors, but at the same time, that's just because it's such an action orientated horror. So you can't have a book going, he hit him, and then he jumped, and then he hit him back in a really cool fashion.
Yeah, definitely. Films can be really loud these days as well, can't they?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I wouldn't have watched Dunkirk, and it was so bloody loud. It was, it's deafening. We should turn it down sometimes. I hate to sound like an old man, but...
I understand that, but it really did lend itself to the film. And the Dunkirk was great. There were some sections of the film, again, not spoiling anything, but I generally felt scared for the characters' life.
Oh, the bit was where they're in that boat and they're shooting.
It goes dark and
and one gets one in the eye or something like that.
That's so creepy.
Oh,
I was like that guy. I was like, look, don't let me go down in deck. I know you've got jam buns underneath, and I really want those jam buns. I'm an Englishman after all, but I'm just going to stand on the deck for a little bit until we're at least halfway to Britain. You know? Yeah,
I know who I'd be. I'd be the guy that bloody. Is it George? He gets knocked on the head and just dies. Without doing anything. He's pretty much useless.
And then you got Harry Styles, who I forgot was Harry Styles through half of the film.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, I forgot it was Harry Styles, but I remember thinking, that soldier has nice hair. I'm not shitting you. Like, even when you don't realise it's Harry Styles, you still think, oh, he stands out from the bunch a bit.
Yeah.
I'm not saying his acting was any good, but then again, I wasn't really paying too much attention to him.
It's a weird one, though, because it didn't really have, like, an awful lot to do, to be fair. You'd have to look kind of a bit frightened, I guess, at the right moments. Look a bit, what's going on. I
can do that without acting. But now that he's been in a Nolan film, a success, no doubt, I'm going to predict that he's going to get the Shia LaBeouf style of ego.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a superstar and I want to be in a superstar film now. Anyone that says that otherwise is just amateur.
Yeah.
I think he's going to get that because he was the leader of One Direction, wasn't he? He was basically the first one to break into, the big leagues. Everyone knew about Harry, of course, didn't they?
I think he's pretty much the most famous one of the lot. I know there's Niall.
Zayn Niall.
Someone else. Someone who quit.
I think Zayn was the one that quit, and he's the second famous one.
Yeah.
Because he's the one that's gone and done his own artist thing. But I still thought Harry was the one that stood out, and then you got Zayn. And then you've got the other three. One of them's Irish. He's trying to do his own thing, but no one gives a shit.
Yeah.
Not the third time, mate. You can go back to Ireland. But at the same time, it's, I don't even know who the other two are.
I think it's Niall and Liam. I'm ashamed to know the name.
No shame in it, man. No shame. You know more than me. You're more on the pop culture buzzer than I am anyway. But
yeah.
Niall and B.
I don't know.
I'd love to do that at Harry Styles concert. At the back, sing. Bring out Niall and B. It's like a band name, really. All and Oates, Niall and B.
Yeah, that is actually, yeah.
Play Freebird.
Right, I'm going to try and hide my One Direction knowledge. I've never actually really listened to any of the songs, I don't think. I had one that sounded like all right, but...
Oh, they're all right, mate. They're very poppy,
Yeah.
I'm not going to say they write their own stuff. I'm sure they may have had their own input, like, at this point, we should tell the girl that we love her and that we're always going to be with her. That's a good one, Harry. Yeah, shit, I would have never thought of that one. At this point, we should sing about how much love we have, but we're singing to a teen cast. So while we're talking, we should change this line from talking about how big our cocks are to talking about how big our love is and how our love wants to explode all over them. We want to explode our love. Oh, subtle, Harry. That's why I use the brains of this occupation.
Yeah, a lot of like exploding in your face and stuff like that. Is that what happened?
We're going to douse you in our foam, girls.
Ooh.
And they just get like these giant cannons out with lots of fun foam.
Is this your dreams or something like that? Is that what we're being let into here?
Pretty much, man. I pretend to hate them, but honestly, I want them to douse me in some foam.
Yeah, you want Harry Styles to explode all over you, don't you?
Yeah, I was sitting in that film theatre thinking, go on, Harry, shout again.
Yeah, well, he's in the uniform as well, isn't he? So I bet that's probably even more of a turn on for you.
Or such a turn on. I'll go up to him and say, you're just a peon, and you're still a higher rank. Tell me what to do, Harry. Sink my boat.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of some jokes about that, but probably best not to say. Yeah, I'm trying to think of any more horror films we could talk about, actually.
What film absolutely unnerved you? One of the most unnerving films you've ever seen? Doesn't have to be horror, though, but can be.
Well, as I said, A Clockwork Orange has definitely got to be up there. A film I watched, The Night Train Murders, is another one. That's quite unnerving at times. I'm trying to think of like any other ones that have really unnerved me. Oh,
bonus points if it came out in the last 10 years, which is very hard to do, actually. Actually, that's way too hard.
Yeah. I saw one called Angel of Death in the last 10 years. That was slightly unnerving. It wasn't very good. It was a sequel to, Harry, the guy who played Harry Potter, Daniel Radcliffe. He was in The Woman in Black.
Oh, yes.
They did a sequel to that film. A kind of related film.
I was involved in the screening, and it was horrendous. They hadn't even finished the special effects when they showed it.
Yeah.
I actually fell asleep 3 times.
Yeah, I didn't think it was great, but there were like little bits of it which were a bit unnerving. But
there were unnerving bits. I got that because I was sitting next to 3 older blonde women. And the only reason I woke up was because they kept screaming. But there were parts where I was kind of like, yeah, this is unnerving. Whenever you have like a door that's locked, but you hear something on the other side or someone's looking through a keyhole, that always gets me.
It did have that kind of quality where it's like Stanley Kubrick would have said The Shining was about, it's the anticipation of something happening.
Yes.
And it did have that quality to it. I felt it was a bit like, some of it wasn't like a great film, but it did have some bits which were really unnerving at times. It was good at that kind of quality. And I did quite like The Woman in Black, actually, to talk about that one as well.
The Woman in Black was good. The first one I quite enjoyed. I love period dramas as well, so anything that's set around that sort of Victorian Edwardian, I do love that. Someone actually said once there was was it a horror or a game or a film? I think it was a game where one of the scariest things you can do is keep building up tension to something, expecting some big climax to come. And then when the climax doesn't come, it throws you on a loop. And that can be one of the scariest things because it's almost messing with how you're hot-wired, your senses are hot-wired to explode after a big build-up of tension. And they don't, because what happens is the payoff you thought was coming doesn't come, but you don't realize that the whole thing was the payoff because you're slowly gaining this tension. And the lack of release actually, it keeps that tension there, and you have a very weird and unnerving way of letting it decrease, like a warm down gone very wrong.
Yeah, because I think The Shining's a bit like that in some way. There's a lot of like building up attention, but not an awful lot happens in it.
That's true.
One of the scarier bits when I first watched it was that woman in the bathroom.
In the bath, yeah.
Where she suddenly just melts or something like that. Ugh.
Yeah, she's all like warty and stuff. And then there's also scary parts where you see something that's supposed to have happened off screen. Like the old woman actually, I think it was supposed to be Jack that strangled Danny, wasn't it? But was it the woman that strangled Danny? Did they? Oh, was it the woman that strangled Danny? I can't remember. I
think it might have been the woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then obviously, she thinks it's Jack Thompson. But these little things that happen off screen, and the little girls in the hallway, which is always the most famous part of the film as well, let's face it. So many little things that happen in the book that are only hinted at in the film is what makes it more ambiguous and more creepy.
Yeah.
Because obviously people that haven't read the book are going to look at that and think, what the hell is this? What kind of blowjob is that? And that's what's creepy, because you don't get the full picture. You're hinted at things. You're looking at this picture of people from, those classic 1920s. Days, and you're not given the full story, and that's what's so creepy, because you're left to your own imagination of what's going on or why this is, and nothing's explained. And that's the great way of doing things, because you're peering into something, not understanding it fully, and that's what's so creepy.
Yeah,
because you're left to fill in the blanks. And
I do get that with Shining, because like you get to the end and you think, what the fuck was going on doing all that?
Exactly. That's when people would explain stuff like 30 years later, and just say little things like, "Oh yeah, he was doing this or that," or the ice cube was made of Lego or something. And people are like, "Oh, okay. Yeah, he's explained it." Don't like that explanation, because they already have their own explanation in their head. So sometimes it's best to just leave it to the people.
Yeah. I think things are better left unexplained most of the time anyway.
Yeah. But sometimes you just need it explained, don't you? Sometimes you just want it, and you think, look, when I get to 80 years old, let me know. And then I can just live happily knowing that. I know it. For 80 years, I didn't know, and I was scared stiff, and now I know, and it's all good. Yeah. I've had that good scare.
I'll tell you what, there's another thing that I found scary, and it's going to sound a bit weird, this one. It was Jane Eyre.
Jane Eyre?
Yeah, because there's a bit where I was eating apple crumble at the time, and there's this bit where this black bird this bird just flies across the screen. Its wings make a really, loud flapping noise, and it kind of shocked me a little bit, and I nearly dropped some of my apple crumble, and I was really hoping no one noticed, but my sister did, and it was a slightly embarrassing moment. So I now have to admit that I find Jane Eyre scary.
Matt, that might be the most quintessentially English paragraph I've ever experienced. Thank you.
It's just bloody loud noises. I don't like them. They shock me sometimes.
I tell you what annoys me, actually. Exactly what you said about loud noises. But when it's a false scare, when they turn around and there's a big jump and it's just their friend or something.
Yeah.
They'll grab their friend on the shoulder. Like you don't do to your friend, by the way.
No.
Really hard. Hey, are you all right? Yeah, you could have asked me that, as you were coming into the room. Thank you very much. You should have known. Are you socially unaware of what you're doing?
Yeah.
Or do you not realise this would scare me? Or are you having a piss take of doing that and saying, hey, you all right?
Yeah. To be fair, in horror film, it's full of people doing things that they really shouldn't do. Do you not think it's not sensible? It's that let's go in the room where, there's something really bad in,
Yeah, like that. I think one of the best ones is, of that example, have you ever seen Jason X?
No.
There's a part where they know Jason's running about the ship, skipping along, and they don't know where he is. And one of them says, should we look out the door? And I swear a girl says, why don't you poke your neck out and have a look? And you're like, what the fuck? Who says that normally? And then in a horror film, it's like, you're expecting this shit. They must have been having a joke. They must have known that wouldn't be taken seriously, but obviously the film isn't taken seriously anyway, but it's fun film. But oh my god, I just hate it.
Yeah, that reminds me of another film, actually, where it's this guy sticking his head out the window, and the window thing comes down and cuts his head off.
Oh, beautiful. What film's that?
It's a film called Enigma, I think.
Enigma.
It's by Lucio Fulci.
Oh, Lucio Fulci. Didn't he do Suspiria?
Yeah, I think he did. Yeah.
He's got some very interesting direction.
Yeah. Is Suspiria by him or Argento?
Oh,
I can't remember now.
It's him.
But yeah, this is the same film where there's snails crawling all over this woman's body at one point. She's naked at the point, I should add, as well. So they're just going, and they're going in her mouth and everything as well. Suspiria's Argento.
Ah, my fault.
Yeah, this film, he did New York Ripper. That was the film I was talking about earlier. He did one of the zombie flesh eater films as well.
Oh, nice. So it was him.
Yeah. Enigma is quite a weird film. I wouldn't say it's actually very good, but it's got some real bits, like, that are really weird.
Yeah, like proper horror.
Yeah, and it's got a really, like, like a really bad pop song. It's kind of like, if you ever heard, it's called like Head Over Heels. And it's just really, it's really strange. But it does kind of add to the film, actually, in a way.
Yeah, like the atmosphere kind of melds with the music itself.
Yeah, don't really have much more to say on horror films, I don't think, so.
Maybe myself, I'm afraid. Talking about the Chainsaw Massacre has actually put me in the mood for watching it as well. So I do kind of want to break out the old classic. Speaking of which, it has that same Blair Witch effect where it doesn't really have any music except for the credits.
Yeah.
That's also quite effective in itself as well. It's more kind of video nasty in that effect. Because if you give it music and it's trying to be realistic, unless it's at the credits, it just doesn't meld. But I think that's just how it needs to be, really.
Yeah. I do wish, like, more films would do that sometimes. Because I think music, like, it's good in some films. I think, like, particularly like Scorsese used music really well.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I think for some films, it just, like, takes away from...
Yeah, well, don't watch the remake. Don't watch the sequels. I'll just say that now. What's it called? Chainsaw 20 Years Later or something like that. And that's Halloween. Hang on. Let me just warn you guys. Okay, so there was a Chainsaw Massacre 2, which I haven't seen. The film I want you guys to avoid, or if you want to fucking laugh, watch Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning. No, Next Generation. Next Generation is horrendous. I watched it on Netflix. Oh wait, no. Hang on a minute. Next Generation. It's not Next Generation. I can't remember. There's so many of them.
I've seen the reviews for one of the Texas Chainsaw ones, and it's like they're all like really bad.
Oh, it's The Beginning. Texas Chainsaw: The Beginning. The one you want to avoid. It's terrible. It's terrible. It takes place in the modern day, and somehow they find the house. But it's basically the woman who was in the house gives birth to a child, and that child grows up to be a normal teen. But then they go back to the house as, a sexy young adult, and to see what her family came from. And it's just shit like that, man. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, even just like hearing it sounds shit.
But there you go. It spawned a legacy, and they're all quite successful, even if they're not as good. The remake was good. I'm not sure about the others, like the Next Generation, but some of them are really trying to. You give someone a mask and a chainsaw. Hey, you got a sequel. It doesn't have to be the same guy. Doesn't have to have the same atmosphere, but that's it. But that's all I have to say on the matter.
Yeah, I think there's some horror films out there best to avoid, probably.
Definitely. We'll have to cover the list at some point.
Yeah.
The best and worst of what we've viewed.
Yeah. Well, the next time, we do an episode, we might be able to do that.
Sounds good to me.
Right, I think we should say bye now.
Oh.
Yeah, that's sad.
Bye, guys. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye, guys.
What? Oh, fuck. Intro music.
Oh.
Welcome to the Dorks Deduction Podcast, where we talk about stuff.
Carmen's going to be fucking angry.
Yeah, well, that's why I did that. She can insert because she's such a whiz at editing. So I think you're so good at editing, Carmen, that you can take that and put it at the beginning, because I think you're so good at editing, by the way.
Yeah, you're really good. Really good.
Anyway.
Oh, we did so well as well.
we did so well, and yeah. Anyway, it was good to talk to you, man, and it was good to talk about, honor the guy one last time.
Tobe. I think that's how you say it, isn't it?
Tobe. Yeah.
Toby, I suppose. No.
To be.
To be. Yeah. Okay, well, we should say bye now, I think.
Au revoir.
Yeah. Bonjour, hello, isn't it?
Bolognese.
Yeah, arrivederci.